damn I love this game. The tension-ridden gameplay, animation, gore effects, campiness, and bone-chilling survival horror are merely a handful of the aspects that have me under the influence of this masterpiece of a remake. Critically considered a classic for the last 20 years, the narrative, clever design, and addicting gameplay remain to be the unbreakable pillars on which the heart of Resident Evil 2 stands, in spite of the new gritty coat of paint and quality of life improvements. While I've seen much of the original game in action, I shamefully confess I haven't played it for myself. And sadly, the majority of Resident Evil games I've experienced have been some of the worst in franchise history. Prior to getting my hands on Capcom's latest, Resident Evil 4 and 7 topped my list. This version of 2 surpasses them all in what I firmly believe to be the best Resident Evil game to date. I can't stop playing it, I can't stop thinking about it, and now I desperately need to get these cooped up feelings off my liquor/chest. Here are 10 things I love about Resident Evil 2. Even as a young tyke in '98, I'd probably have had a severe crush on polygonal Ada Wong. Thanks to the blessed RE engine in 2019, I most definitely do now. It's a funny example, but take a look at how elegant the grizzled truck driver looks while horfing down his bacon cheeseburger at the beginning of the game. Yeah, it looks delectable, but just get a load of the guy's face! The textures are practically photorealistic, and the expressions conveyed through the impressive animation are mesmerizing. The same can be said for every character you encounter in the game. Those beautiful character models inhabit some remarkably detailed and enveloping environments as well, not to mention the genuinely terrifying nature of the zombies that populate them. While I'd grown accustomed to the franchise's tank-like nature of mobility and combat, I can't deny the fact it paled in comparison to third-person action mechanics found in many other titles. The over-the-shoulder perspective paired with the ability to move while shooting is by far one of the most welcome changes. Aiming and firing feel great on console, but absolutely exceptional on mouse and keyboard. Never before has a Resident Evil title felt quite this smooth and precise. Don't get me wrong, there is a certain charm I imagine many of us admire about the old fixed camera angles and stationary gunplay, but following the leap Capcom's made with Resident Evil 2, I can't imagine playing any other way. Call me a morbid psychopath if you must, but I can't be the only one who appreciates some nasty blood and gore. I've certainly had my fill in games like Gears of War, Wolfenstein, Doom, and many more, but none do it quite like Resident Evil 2. I mean, son, this game is brutal! I don't believe I've ever witnessed gruesome deformation to this degree in an interactive medium. The way gunshots blast gaping holes through zombies and expose bones, guts, and muscle structure is downright gnarly. Violence aside, it's astonishing to behold. The details are boundless. You can cripple them, blow them in half, pop their skulls like balloons. Enemies viscerally reflect the damage you deal, and it's a bloody good time.
Son of a bitch.
Considering I possess a passion for audio, I'd be remiss to overlook the game's tremendously effective sound design. Having mentioned the visual carnage, I equally uplift the audio that coincides with it. Other details that may go unappreciated include flickering lights, the weight of your character's movements, different sounds of footsteps, distant groans, and even the act of unholstering, swapping, and firing weapons. Don't get me started on those plan monsters either. Oh, that gurgling sound they make is the worst, which reminds me of how good it feels to light them up. Another bit of poop-inducing audio is the tyrant's plosive stomping. Dolph Lundgren certainly has an intimidating presence in Rocky IV, but God is my witness, he actually made me scream like a little girl in this game. Honestly, sometimes I just imagine the way he looked in Aquaman while he was chasing after me, and it made me feel a little bit better. Oh, and who doesn't love the classic sound of acquiring items? I've been a physics junkie since Halo 2 and was thrilled by the introduction of ragdoll physics for the first time in franchise history with Resident Evil 7. The scripted animations and dissolving bodies of the series past aren't by any means a bad thing, but realistic body and environmental physics immerse me further into the action and the world around me. I say all this because the RE engine's physics capabilities have vastly improved beyond what we saw in 7, and I'm confident in stating that they rival Rockstar's own Euphoria engine. The most impressive aspect is the weight of the bodies and how they interact with the environment. I get quite the fix with Resident Evil 2's physics, as they make the bloody action all the more satisfying. I'm also a sucker for subtlety, and the countless details in the environments equate to an especially eerie and dreadful atmosphere. From blood-soaked corridors to tattered offices, the RPD alone spells a harrowing tale. Some of it can be uncovered through tapes and rolls of film, but I appreciate that the majority of what occurred at the station before your arrival is left up to your imagination. Each of the main locations in the game have a unique layout, rife with death and other atrocities that keep exploration interesting and nerve-wracking. I was on edge from beginning to end of my first run, and knowing there's additional content present in Round 2, I can't wait to experience it all over again.
What in God's name?
Let me tell you, my ass is ripped after the first 6 hours I spent with this game. In spite of the fun I had while playing, I felt exhausted by the end of it. It's like I'd spent 3 days trying to go Super Saiyan 3 in an office chair. What I'm trying to say is the game's riddled with tension. It varies a bit depending on the difficulty setting, but the scarcity of ammo demands you capitalize off your resources, and the limited inventory space makes many discoveries incredibly stressful. Narrow passages result in dangerous enemy encounters and evoke a sense of claustrophobia. Dealing with these aspects while Mr. X stomps after you makes matters worse. The level of tension reached through the game's brilliant design is a stark reminder of why the Resident Evil franchise has inspired several survival horror titles through the generations that have followed. I may be alone in feeling this way, but I dig the lack of inventory space at the start of the game. It encourages you to venture beyond the beaten path, and fortunately, you're always rewarded in doing so. Aside from increasing your inventory space, there's a myriad of secrets to dig up and weapon attachments to uncover. Like an idiot, I failed to acquire the Magnum, better known as the Lightning Hawk, during my first playthrough. Finding and crafting a buttload of Magnum rounds throughout the game made its absence particularly humiliating. Obviously, snagging it out of the STARS office is a primary goal of mine going into playthrough number 2, and there's even plenty of story bits I've yet to unveil. I'm stoked to re-strategize my inventory management and finally get my hands on that damn hand cannon with a better understanding of the game's progression. There are some priceless character moments in Resident Evil 2. I can't quite attest to the original performances, but the portrayals of the characters in the remake are fantastic. The ability of the writers to ride the line between dramatic and campy is praiseworthy. I'm astounded by how Leon is equally hilarious and badass. Whether or not it's intentional, I think his reactions to the things he sees throughout the game are so funny. Major spoiler alert for the portion ahead, but I have to mention it. I'll give you a moment to click away or skip ahead. Okay, my favorite Leon moment is at the end of the game when he confronts Ada for playing him. In spite of the underground facility nearing self-destruction, surviving inconceivable horrors, and after the entire city has fallen, he still stands his ground and says,
Drop that damn gun! I'm taking you in.
What a legend. I nearly leapt out of my seat. I'll refrain from spoiling this one, but the interaction you have with the civilian and his daughter halfway through the game is a prime example of the dramatic excellence in the narrative. I'm beginning to ramble, but I'll add that I much admire Claire's spunky personality and Ada's elusive intentions. If you haven't already realized it, I'm yearning to jump into my second run. There's plenty left to discover, both Scenario B campaigns to play, Hunk and Tofu's modes, and some classic threads to sport while I'm at it. The combination of fun gameplay, terrific design, and alluring visuals makes for one hell of an addicting concoction. Capcom has excelled in not only remaking a beloved classic, but delightfully evolving the franchise as a whole. Going into Resident Evil 2, I'd already had a growing interest in the franchise. Having experienced a mere fourth of it, I'm all in. I can't wait to see what they do with the follow-up to Resident Evil 7. Anyway, if you're playing the game, I'd love to know what you love or even hate about it. Lastly, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to COGconnected for more Resident Evil content. And for news, reviews, features, and more, visit us online at COGconnected.com.